The views expressed and the opinions given by their guests do not necessarily reflect those of the Odyssey Files hosts, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
This is Susan Slaughter from Paranormal Caught on Camera. You're welcome. Pew, 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 pew.
Oh!
Kim, what are you doing?
Well, I'm telling Mike and Dave, it's time to get on the show.
Oh, well, the Odyssey Files starts now.
Good evening, paranormal community. It is 7 o'clock here on Monday night, which means you're listening to the Odyssey Files. I am your host, Michael O'Neill. With me are my wonderful co-hosts, Mr. David Sawyering and Ms. Lauren Infante. Good evening, everybody. How are you?
Wonderful.
Doing good.
What? Wonderful? That did not sound very wonderful, Mr. Sawyering.
Wonderful.
Good. I mean, it was a good day out today.
It was beautiful out today.
Yes, it was.
Springtime's right around the corner, maybe.
Cross your fingers.
But now here, I mean, not everybody has to deal with this kind of issue, but I know we do here in Minnesota, and that is the sludge that is now here. So everything is wet and slushy. I decided today while I was working that I would be efficient, and I had two stops pretty much right next door to each other, but one is up a big hill, and I figured I would deliver one thing and then run up the hill and get the other one, and on the way down fell on my ass because my feet slipped in the mud. And yeah, so the whole rest of the day, I was sitting on my coat in the truck, and if I were to show you the back of those pants, yep.
Did it look something like you were at like Juanita's all-you-can-eat burrito buffet at 3 o'clock in the morning, or and had a bad episode?
You know, I did not look at it on purpose until I got home. And thankfully, nobody said a word to me until I stopped to get gas at the Super America, or now it's Speedway. But I kind of turned around to look at this display case, and the cashier was like, "Did you fall in the mud today?" I'm like, yeah, I did. And I'm like, "Is it bad?" And she's like, "It's very noticeable." I'm like, "Okay, great." So yeah, I had the notion early on. I'm like, I hope somebody doesn't think that I like just spewed my pants out, you know.
Well, there's your silver lining for today.
What is it?
Right. Your silver lining was that the cashier was nice enough to say, "Did you fall in the mud today?" instead of, "Holy my God, did you shit your pants?" Right? That's your silver lining for today.
I think I would have laughed a little harder if she would have said the latter. But
yeah, being an employee of the gas station, it probably would have been inappropriate for her to say that. But I would have said it had I been a customer in line standing behind you.
I can see that. Yeah.
I'd be like, "Dude, you have a rough night or what, man? Cheap beer will do it to you."
God, I hope that if it's like 5 p.m, that somebody wouldn't be like, "Did you have a rough last night?" Because that.
Yeah, well, you don't drink, so trust me. At 5 p.m, there have been some rough last nights that start at about 4 or 5 the next day.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, and I'm not the only one. There's hundreds of thousands and millions of us that have had that regretfully happen to them. So.
Thankfully, not me.
Thankfully not.
So great show. ahead for everybody. During the second hour, we are going to continue. I'm not really sure how to classify this because it's holy my God, what is wrong with that? I'm sorry, I just saw my face freeze, and it's
been freezing on my end since the beginning of the show. So
well, as long as my voice can be heard, I'm all right.
Yeah, your voice is fine, but your face is freezing in these weird contorted facial things. And it's been doing it since we got online. So
I think for the rest of the show, I'm just going to do that on purpose and see if I can freeze myself in like weird
pose.
Weird facial expressions.
Just do like the Vogue or something, and then like when it catches that moment, it'll be there. It is. Look at that. It was beautiful.
You're welcome. So anyway, obviously Wi-Fi is not very good where I am, but they'll just have to do either that or I'll leave and come back again and maybe it'll fix it. But I'll do that during the second story.
Intermission. Oh no, yeah, second story. That's good. Yeah.
Second story, because you don't need me while you're reading.
No.
But so like I said, great story, or great show for everybody. We're going to continue our discussion from last week. So last week was sleep paralysis, and we're going to be moving on to nightmares and night terrors.
And I have to interject something here.
Sure.
As I was looking today, and I kid you not, to get the 6 stories that I got, of course, skipping the 4-sentence long stories, and then
those are the best.
And then skipping the full novel chapters, right? Which some were actually good, but I'm just like, Jesus Christ, we're only going to get 2 stories done. It's going to take 10 minutes to read it, and the audience is going to be like falling asleep at the wheel, getting into an accident. I can't be responsible for that. So, so it took a long time to find them, but I kid you not, and I don't believe in coincidence. I kid you not, after last week's sleep paralysis story or episode, today, out of probably 250 stories that I read, 200, I bet I read 200, maybe not 250, 200. 125 were sleep paralysis stories. And that is not an exaggeration. I mean, every single story, out of 10 stories, 8 of them were sleep paralysis. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? I'm like, I can't choose sleep paralysis stories because we just did sleep paralysis last week, and that's going to be really boring, so I got to find something that's somewhat exciting, right? Like something different we haven't talked about in a while to keep things fresh. But it's like, I don't know. It's like so here's what I think, right? We changed the cosmic vibe. We did our show last week on sleep paralysis. And now
everybody's having it.
Not everybody, but not everybody. The people that are willing to talk openly are all coming forth with their sleep paralysis stories and flooding the market with them at the moment. So now that'll be interesting, right? I'm just saying, it's a theory, right? Theories are just theories. It's a theory, but it'll be interesting to see if next week either nightmares and or night terrors flood the stories after the show. And if they do, now I'm not thinking it's a coincidence, which I don't think it's a coincidence anyway. That's just me. That's my personal opinion. I'm out in left field. I don't run like in the same wavelength that everybody else runs. So I'm usually always on the outside, kind of watching the inside. But
yes, that is 100% accurate.
Yeah. I like that though. I like that perspective. That's why I stay here. I like being on the outside, kind of watching the inside twist and turn, and I kind of just observe. But I'm social about it, right? I could just be like one of those quiet observers, but I'm not. So
yeah. So what do you think, Lauren? Do you think that we changed the cosmic vibe with our show last week?
I mean, I believe everything happens for a reason, so maybe we open the space, like Dave was saying, and people are just feeling more inclined to come forward and talk about their experiences, which I think is great because I think it's important to talk about.
I do too.
Yeah, but and I agree with you, Dave, that if you just would have picked a whole bunch of sleep paralysis stories, everyone would have been the exact, no matter what the stories would have been about. It'd been like, you're dreaming, it's medical condition, you're all right, move on. we would have gotten through like 15 stories if you would have.
You would have. I don't think that you are the one who's like 90-10 or whatever on the sleep paralysis versus paranormal. I'm 50-50, so there would have been a lot of discussion on my stories. But
I did not hear any feedback on to who anybody thought was correct in their numbers. So
I didn't either.
I
have 3 new friends joining us tonight that are listening. So
excellent. Yeah. So I think that I'm just going to pull rank and announce myself as the winner.
That's not fair.
That's absolutely not going to happen. You ain't pulling rank on shit. If anything goes to rank, it goes to age, and you certainly are not pulling rank on me. So years in the paranormal field and age, you ain't pulling rank on shit. But okay, if it makes you feel better, I'll give it to you for your own little personal thing. But no, it's for our fans and listeners. That's not the case.
Yeah, as he says, as he's removed from the show by me. I'm just kidding. I would never do that. So, all right, let's get into our first story, which is an interesting one. So I just, this is one of those titles that just makes you want to go, huh? Like one of those things that make you go,
Yeah, I saw this and I was like, I did the same thing. And I actually read it twice before I grabbed it. And I'm like, what the hell did I just read? And then I'm like, I got to reread this thing. So yeah. So I think it's good.
I do too. I mean, technically he's a little wrong because he said, I saw my mom's past described in an alternate present.
Right. But he I get it too. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So, all right. This person writes, I was 8 years old when I lived with my mom and sister in a trailer park. It was the weekend, so my sister and I had been outside all day playing with rocks, exploring the woods, and playing pretend. It started to get close to dinner time, so we went back to our trailer and went inside. Once inside, I laid down on the couch, which was right next to the kitchen, and my sister went into the kitchen to talk with my mom. I don't know how long I was laying there with my eyes closed, but as I laid there, I listened to their conversation. My mom was telling my sister that when she was 16, she got pregnant by a guy named Troy. She said that she and Troy were in love, but they were too young to raise a kid, so she got an abortion. She said that if she had kept the baby, then we would have a brother about 8 years older than my sister, 9 years older than me. After hearing all this, my sister walked back to our room, and I sat up and asked my mom why she didn't want to tell me about our brother. My mom was clueless. She had no idea what I was talking about. I explained that I had heard her telling my sister about how we would have had a big brother and that she got an abortion when she was 16. My mom looked worried and asked me how I knew that. I told her again how I had heard her telling my sister while I was laying on the couch. I told her I was just pretending to sleep and that I heard everything. My mom told me she never told my sister any of that information. She confirmed that everything I quote unquote heard was true, but that she and my sister had never talked about it. I asked my sister about it later, and she said she didn't know what I was talking about either, and that the conversation never happened. We both went to my mom after that, and she sat us down and explained about how we would have had a big brother. That's about it. I've always thought maybe I fell asleep and dreamed it, but I never had the feeling of falling asleep or waking up. I never felt a shift in consciousness. Could I have slipped in and out of a different reality where my mom was actually having that conversation with my sister? I'm open to any theories or explanations you guys might have. So, honestly, as I was reading this, before he even got to the part of, him saying about how his mom had no idea what he was talking about. I was still sitting there being like, that's an interesting conversation to just have with the sister on some random Tuesday. Like that is literally a conversation where you need to sit people down and be like, okay, I need to talk to you about this for this reason. Not just, hey, dinner's almost ready, but you know what? I'd like to tell you about this that happened when I was 16.
Not when they're 9 years and his sister was 9 years old and he was 8. That's not a 9-year-old conversation to have as a parent.
Well, exactly. You know, I actually found out that something similar had happened with my mom, where she didn't have an abortion, but she gave up a child before she had my sister and me, and never told us, period. It was my grandma that told us after my mom had passed away. You know, so we were 29, 30 years old, you know, and just finding out that we actually have like, I think he's a half brother or sister, but out there somewhere. So, I mean, yeah, I agree. Having a conversation, did my face freeze in a weird way again?
Yeah, you're on a roll, man. Keep it up. It looks beautiful.
Anyway, I'm trying my best, and I'm entertaining those that are watching while informing people who are listening.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, so I mean, the only thing that I can think of for me on this is, you know, that either he's got some sort of telepathy, you know, kind of powers or whatever that decided to manifest right then. I don't know if this is something that continued on or if that was a one-time thing. I have no idea. But and somehow he gleaned that off of his mother, or he somehow slipped into maybe he not so much fell asleep, but projected himself unknowingly into another universe where, yes, they were having that. I mean, if he couldn't see the sister, I mean, who knows? Maybe the sister was 25 at the time, you know, and then slipped back to where he was and everything was good to go, but he still retained those memories. Otherwise, I have no idea. But those are my two theories, that either he has got some sort of telepathy thing that is going on, or he did in fact go someplace else.
Go ahead, Lauren.
This one confuses me slightly, just because, like, I think I'm on the same page as you, Mike. I think it's some kind of like telepathy or some kind of enhanced hearing. I don't really know if he like traveled into another plane and like projected just simply by not trying and not realizing and not feeling a shift. I mean, it's quite possible, but I would think my initial thought is, okay, he has some kind of ability that allows him to hear maybe somebody else that was trying to tell him and imitating his mom, so it didn't scare him. And so he didn't question where it was coming from, maybe. It could actually be like some past relative that felt that was important information for him to hear for some reason. That, like you said, Dave, I don't think you should be telling an 8-year-old that. That's not really the best story to tell somebody that young. But that's also a possibility. It could have been somebody else kind of just mimicking the mother's voice, so he knows that story because maybe they felt it was important that they knew that.
Okay. I am going to say this is one of those moments where there was a very close kind of planal shift, you know, and that what he experienced was something that happened in an alternative existence. And I don't think it was his sister that the mom was talking to. I think this was more of a confessional. Because he never saw, because to Mike's point, he never saw the sister in the other room. He just assumed it was her because he was laying on the couch and it was only him and his sister and his mom in this room. But if you believe in the fact that planes can overlap at times and that at times the doors open, then to me, I think this is more of a confession from his mom, not necessarily a guilty confession, right? I mean, I agree with her as a look, where I grew up, as a little segue here, where I grew up, there were a lot of 15, 16-year-old girls who got pregnant, and that it happens in lower income neighborhoods. That's just part of life. So they're living in a trailer park, and I'm not bashing trailer parks. I'm not saying trailer parks are bad in any way, shape, or form. But usually people that don't have the financial means to buy a house in a nice neighborhood end up having to buy what they can afford, and what they can afford is usually like a trailer home. So I think that maybe this was more of a confessional from his mom, and that for some reason he was meant to know that. For some reason it was supposed to be heard by him, so that moving forward, somewhere in his future, there's going to be an occurrence where this is going to be information that's seeded. And then once that information is seeded, he'll be able, when he's in that moment in the future, he'll be able to reflect back upon this moment and kind of have a calmness to him, like an understanding that he wouldn't normally have. That's kind of what I'm going with. Like I said, I'm in left field, so.
No, and I honestly don't know if we'll ever know why he was able to glean that information, just out of the blue.
But certainly not a thing a mom would tell two kids living as a single mom in a trailer park with an 8 and a 9-year-old to tell them about, hey, I had an abortion when I was 16, and just bring it up at, like you said, Mike, a dinner conversation. That's just not a moment you're going to have. That's just not going to happen, right? Not going to happen. Nope. As a parent, that's not going to happen. You'll have that conversation when they're adults, 18, 20, 21, whatever. Not as a teenager, because teenagers it's volatile years, as we all know. We all been through them, right? Hormonal flux. You like girls, you like sports, you like girls, you like, whatever. You're all over the place. Guys are beating the hell out of each other, trying to assert dominance, but whatever. So it's still not the right time. It has to be the right time when they're mature enough they're past their teenage years and mature enough to understand what it means to have a relationship when you're 16 years old, to have an accidental pregnancy, and then to have to make that very, very difficult decision to give that baby up.
Yep. So, all right, you're up, Dave.
All right, moving on. Small hooded figure in my house. So, myself and my husband built our house 2 years ago. We've had strange happenings in the house, like all the doors closing in perfect order at night with no windows open, and hearing strange screeching noises. Bit scary, but the next is insomnia worthy. I was laying on the couch watching my 1-year-old son playing, and all of a sudden he runs to me frightened. I then see a small figure up to the height of the handle of the door in the corner of the room. And this was in front of a door leading out the hall, is what this person adds in. The figure, who looked to be an old female, was in all black and hunched over. Her hands were clasped together, giving the appearance that she was begging or praying, all covered by a large old-style black cloak with a hood partially covering her face. I was terrified, but grabbed my son and sat down on the couch. I began talking to the thing, or to her. She's been calling it a her, so I don't know why she didn't say her. I was saying how it's always welcome and how it can stay for however long it wishes, etc. I also said the Our Father prayer. It's kind of contradictory. I am not sure how long the thing stayed for, but it was likely around 20 minutes. It didn't say a word. It made ever so slight movements, only barely moving its head occasionally. It disappeared while I wasn't looking, as in I looked away and looked back to see that it had gone. I checked the door and saw a shape left on the door in a rough shape of the figure. Its shape was almost burned, in quotations, into the door. Anyone know what this could have been? As a sideline, or as an ad note here, there were houses on the land before our house was built back in famine times, mid-1800s here in Ireland. And it's possible there was a lot of struggle and maybe even tragic death on the land during those times. So, any ideas? Well, I got a great first idea. The great first idea I have is, why in the hell did you tell this thing that scared the hell out of your kid that it could just hang out for as long as it wanted to and that it was welcome? The second great idea, it's not even a second great idea. No, I want to go somewhere that I'm not going to go. I'm going to leave that to Mike. Why, if this thing scared the hell out of you and scared the hell out of your kid, and you said the Our Father, which means that either you don't believe in God, and this is one of those holy shit, I should believe in God moments, and you're reaching for something, or you do believe in God, and you're asking for his help because you think there's something evil in your house. If that's the case, then why in the hell again, and I don't want to sound repetitive, but why in the hell again did you say it's always welcome and how it can stay for however long it wishes? Okay, so that's the first thing that bothers me here. The second thing that bothers me here is the fact that this shape burned its shape into the door. And then this woman asks, anyone know what this could have been? I don't want to jump to conclusions, but I'm being that it's in Ireland, and there's a lot of folklore in Ireland that I'm not 100% familiar with. I know some of it. I don't want to sound like an expert because I certainly am not. I'm on like I'm nowhere near an expert. It could have been a lot of things from folklore, but if it scared the hell out of you and it caused you to immediately say the Our Father prayer, I'm going to assume that it was some sort of dark entity. Something, shall I say, evil. Then I'll leave it at that.
Lawrence, all yours.
Thanks. Yeah, the first thing that I thought of was, why would you, like, same thing as you said, Dave. You don't know the intentions of this thing. Why on earth would you say you're welcome here anytime? You wouldn't say that to an actual person if they were just in your house. So besides the point, you already went over that. There is a lot of folklore in Ireland. So my initial thought was it was maybe some sort of, it's not a fairy. I don't think it falls under that category. It doesn't strike me as that. But it could be like some kind of, I feel like it'd be weird if like an elemental just like came into your house for no reason, right, and then stayed there for like 20 minutes or however long they said this thing was there and then just left. I'm going to guess it's some kind of folklore kind of thing. I guess I'm a little impressed that you just sat there for 20 minutes, like having a stare off with this thing with your 1-year-old child next to you. I would have thought, like, get the kid away from this thing and put him in a room and then come back and deal with it and see what's going on for the safety of your child. But I guess I've never heard that its shape, like, it left a residue on a wall where it was just
on
like
the door.
Yeah, on the door.
That it was kind of stand. That's how she measured it. Was that it was its head was at the handle of the.
Yeah.
You know, so that's only like 3 foot tall. She said 4 foot, but doors aren't 8 feet tall.
Yeah.
Maybe they are in Ireland, but they're not here. I can tell you that for a fact.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I guess I would have loved to see like if she like took the door somewhere and like had somebody look at it or took a picture of the door, because if it's burned into the door, it's gonna be there. That's not gonna go away. So I wish there was a picture of that. But yeah, I mean, as scary as it sounds, doesn't really sound like anything. It didn't do anything intimidating. But then again, I wouldn't trust it. I'd be very curious to see if there's anything else going on inside the house, or if it was just that one incident and nothing ever happened again. That it just seems suspicious to me. But
well, that is the thing that I'm surprised neither one of you said. I mean, you kind of hinted at it, Lauren, but it didn't do anything. Like, it didn't interact with her. It didn't really even acknowledge her. I mean, so who's to say that this is an entity at all and not just some sort of residual type energy or whatnot? You know, I have a hard time believing. I mean, yes, it's all in black, but that doesn't mean that it's evil. It didn't do anything evil. It didn't hurt anybody. It didn't talk to anybody. And I'm actually very, my pen just went flying. So, okay, I was going to use that, but I can't imagine how much energy it must have taken, whether intelligent or residual, to stick around for 20 minutes. Like, that's insane. Like, I'm almost wondering if maybe like the son like painted a black figure on the wall and then like ran away. I mean, and she just sat there looking at, paint drying for 20 minutes. But that shocks me. The fact that it was around for that long.
You do understand that the son was 1 year old, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So he wasn't painting on the door. I'm just telling you from a parent standpoint. He was not a 1-year-old person. A 1-year-old child is not painting on
a 1-year-old can paint.
No, they can't.
I could talk when I was born. I just didn't have anything to say.
There you have it. Full disclosure on the Odyssey files.
Just saying, 1-year-olds can be kind of special sometimes. They can do amazing things. Anyways, so I just want to, I agree with you, Dave, the whole "you're welcome here anytime," blah, blah, blah. I don't get that at all. I definitely would not do that. Mm-mm. If you want to talk to him, fine. Why are you here? What's your name? But just not, stay as long as you want. Mm-mm. You need something to drink. Like, that just doesn't, maybe that's an Ireland thing. I mean, I'm Irish, but even I wouldn't do that. But then again, I'm kind of Irish in America. So, maybe Irish people are different, but I don't know. This is one of those stories where it's like, do you even believe that maybe this person was just drunk and imagined the whole thing? I
hope not, with a 1-year-old sitting in the living room.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there are some very bad parents out there, Dave.
Oh, trust me, I know. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so I mean, run along, dear, and play with your toys while mommy, kicks a few back.
Bottle of vino, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Hits God's nectar. So, but it's, I don't know. There's just a lot of things weird about this one. The reaction to it from her, the 20 minutes from her. I don't know if it's maybe, I mean, she just put it in quotes, burned into the door. I mean, maybe it was ectoplasm that was gone like the next day. I'm with you, Lauren. I would like to see a photo of exactly what it looked like. Maybe that whatever that stain or whatever was left was there all the time, and she just suddenly saw it because she was looking for it. I don't know. There's just a lot of things wrong with this story. I would have a lot of follow-up questions for this person, but what it is, I don't know. I mean, it's Ireland. Maybe it was a little leprechaun. You know, you never know. You know, maybe it was a goth leprechaun. That's my answer.
That's a theory.
Just saying, leprechauns can go through stages too, rebellious stages. You know, maybe it's a goth leprechaun. So, just that's all I got. I got nothing else.
All right, Lauren, I think you're up.
Okay, this one. Moving on. This one is called Sunday Morning Services. In the autumn of 1996, I was 10 years old at church. The foyer was pulsing with happy members, greeting each other and catching up on the week's events. The other youths and I were saddled up to the drinking fountain, timing how long we could drink water. Cale was timing with his watch, with his calculator watch. Yeah. Man, that son of a bitch whipped it out anytime he could. What a power move. I was getting nervous because I was on deck and I had not yet realized the unholy ability I have to chug. Wow, this person. I like the way they write. I looked nervously into the crowd and I noticed Mr. Miller inching up the stairs. He was wearing an oversized, wrinkled black suit clinched above his waist. It looked as if he had bought it in the 1970s and said, "This will be my suit for the rest of my life." He had shrunk it noticeably since the purchase, and he looked like a child in his father's suit. Where is his wife? I thought as he reached the top step of the cement slab stairs. The same people were always at church, and if you weren't, you would get what? If you weren't there, you would get 24 phone calls quizzing you about your whereabouts. Then something even stranger happened. He was not greeted as he shuffled in. He was not spoken to by anyone at all. No one even glanced his way. That's odd because usually everyone at church can't wait to exchange pleasantries and gossip. As he walked through the foyer and got closer, I noticed his eyes. They looked reflective and metallic, as if mercury from a poisonous thermometer. His skin was gray, like the mortar between dark red bricks on the foyer wall. A hard left turn, and he was in the chapel. Moments later, the organ started, which was our cue to find our seats. I looked around for Mr. Miller, and he wasn't in his usual spot. The service started as normal, and I was back to daydreaming of the potluck after the service. Stand up, sit down, sing, pray, rinse, repeat. Everything that happened like it had always happened before. Then the pastor got to the prayer section of the program. We all prayed for the sick members' We all prayed for all of the sick members' recovery. Next, he asked us to pray for the soul of Mr. James Miller and his family because he had died of a heart attack the night before. I was so confused. The event didn't truly frighten me until I thought about it years later. Was his soul on autopilot? Was it just a memory replaying? That's an interesting one. I think it just, to me, it screams residual energy just because it's just kind of like somebody's been going to church every week for so long. It's just kind of like a broken record, just like playing over and over. But I mean, if he has the appearance that he's passed away, that kind of puts a strange twist to it in my mind, because usually when we think of residual hauntings and when you're seeing something residual, it's not like people have aged. They stay, the image is the exact same. That's why it's residual, it replays. So I guess that kind of threw me off that course. But I do think in a lot of cases, when you get somebody that is very religious, it's not a far throw in my mind that one of the first places, if they are stuck here on earth for whatever reason, they would go to their place of worship. That in my mind makes sense because, you know, if you're a practicing Christian, you know, when you go to church, you always think about, okay, when like the end is near or whatever, you know, God is the one that will lead you to wherever you're supposed to go, if you believe that. So I guess that makes sense in my mind that he would just come back, especially if it was the night before. Maybe he's still trying to figure out what's going on. another question that popped into my mind. This person, I'm curious why he's the only one that can see him, because it doesn't sound like he has a very strong personal connection. It's not like it was his best friend or something like that, or it was a family member. It was just another person in the church, you know. But maybe he's more open to that kind of stuff than anybody else. So maybe that's why he was, as far as we know, the only other person that was able to see him. But it's an interesting one. I like ones about churches. I think they're always interesting, and I always find them like kind of comforting in a weird way. But
I think this brings up an excellent question based on what you just said. At what point does a haunting, right? And I throw haunting in air quotes. At what point does a haunting become residual? Is it immediate? Is it within a day? I mean, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But I agree with what you said. I agree that he's there because it's his comfort place. But he wasn't a bachelor, right? Like, and he wasn't a widower. He had a family. So I think this is an intelligent haunt. I think the fact, the way that the person who saw him described him, like he cinched his pants above his waist, right? So like he bought this suit. Now this suit is way oversized. So he tightens his belt above his waist and cinches it down so his pants won't fall off. He slowly takes his way up the stairs. He's got this kind of ashen gray look to him. The mercury in the eyes thing, I don't know. That's got me that's the only thing that throws me for a loop. The ashen gray skin and stuff does not, because I've seen that myself. But the mercury in the eyes thing, that's something new to me. I have not seen that. But I think that he has not got to the point yet where this is a potential residual haunt. I think this is still an intelligent haunt. And I think what he's doing is he's just going through the motions, thinking possibly that as I go through my normal steps, I'll discover what's happening to me. Like, I mean, I find that more comforting, as you do, right? And being a religious man, I find that more comforting than I would rather do. Okay, so I would rather do that than pass away and choose to just sit somewhere by myself trying to decipher what the hell's going on, right? I would rather attend mass like I had for 40 years or whatever, and be with the people that I love, my community, right? And the people that love me and care about me. And then try and figure out what's going on as I'm experiencing this stuff moving forward. So I think it's the only thing I don't agree with you on is that I think it's more of an intelligent versus a residual. But as far as the church and comforting thing and everything else, I'm 100% with you on that. I feel the same way.
So the first thing that I'm going to say about this one is this guy's a writer. Like, this guy writes, whether for a living or whatever, because out of all the stories that I've ever read, this is by far the most descriptive, but like well-written descriptions, like the pulsing with happy members. Nobody ever writes like that, period. I would literally have to be sitting down and with the specific purpose of writing a story in order to do all of this stuff, or to write it like this. And that's not a complaint. I love it. I'm just saying this guy writes. I agree with you, Dave. It's not residual for the main purpose that one, it's only like 12 hours.
Right.
But also nobody saw him but the kid. Usually residual energy doesn't react like that. Usually everybody can see whatever is going on because that's all, it's just this tape replaying. I don't think nowhere in this did the guy say that like he looked confused or that he didn't know what he was doing. So I agree that it's an intelligence, but I don't believe he was there trying to figure something out. I think he was there to say goodbye to everybody. And I think if anything, when the kid saw him inching up the stairs, I think he was leaving. Like, I think that was his pathway up to the light for him, which is why he never appeared again after that. I think he had said his goodbyes to the people of the community and to his church and was leaving. But, if this kid has some sort of latent abilities, that could be the reason why he was the one to see him. Maybe he just gleamed at the right moment, where the energy he was able to be seen, but nobody was paying any attention to him at that time because all the kids were chugging water, which, by the way, I've done before. So it's fun. So
I have chugged water at a drinking fountain on a stopwatch to see who could suck down.
Of course.
I have done that. So that part of the story is true.
Oh yeah. Boys will find anything to satisfy the pride. Right. I may not be the best bike rider, but I can chug this effing water better than you. Right. Like they will find a way to be the best. That's what I think of this one. I think that he knew exactly what was going on. I think he was there to say goodbye. And the kid that wrote this just saw it at the right time when he was leaving. The Mercury thing, though, I'm wondering if it may be I have the coloring wrong or whatever in my head, but I mean, usually when people pass away, they have the cataract in their eye. Mm-hmm. So maybe he was just kind of describing it that way. I
thought about that. Yeah, I thought about that too. But it's that's kind of an opaque, like a walleye eye would be. It's kind of like an opaque white. Mercury to me is more of that kind of glistening, silvery, liquidy type of effect. And maybe I got stuck on the word mercury. Maybe he meant to say it was opaque. I don't know. But he said it was mercury, like from a liquid thermometer. And I have not ever heard of that before. So that would be, that wouldn't be the most pleasant way to see another person. I could do the opaque thing, like the cataract thing, the opaque eye. I've seen that before. I saw that when my uncle passed away and when he came and visited a couple of times. It wasn't a big deal because I knew he'd passed away. And I'm like, yeah, that's how your eyes look when you pass away. But had it been this funky, silvery, liquidy, swirly, I don't know. It seems a little weird to me.
Take into account this guy likes description.
He likes to paint, right.
He likes to paint a picture in people's minds. So maybe that was just the best way of getting that imagery into what he was seeing. I mean, I don't think that it needs to be really delved into. But yeah. So, all right. Oh, how straightforward is number 4? House is haunted. Solved. I guess David, it's your turn. All right. So yeah, just title is House is Haunted. I'm assuming high 20 male here. I'm assuming that's what 20M means.
Yeah. Yep. 20-year-old male. Yep.
All right. So hi, 20-year-old male here. I'm a religious man and Lord knows I could be doing a better job at it. For 3 years now, I've been living in my parents' flat out the back of the house I grew up in. This granny flat has been making noises that I always disproved as house noises, but I can't ignore them any longer. Usually at night, I hear scratching and knocking on my walls, taps on my bedroom door when shut, and footsteps behind me on the tiled floor when I'm going to bed after turning the lights off. 2 years ago, I dated a medium, 21 female. Boy, he really likes to do age and sex. All we need is location, and we have an AOL chat room.
Well, he was only 18 at the time, so I think he's bragging.
Oh, well, yeah, 2 years ago.
He's 20. He's 20 now, right? Exactly. So
Okay.
when he was 18, right, he was dating a 21-year-old. So I think he's
Go
bragging.
him.
Yeah.
Obviously, this guy won at chugging water.
Again, the male thing, chugging. Right, exactly. He's looking to win the male contest. He can't chug water for shit, but he was 18. He slept with a 21-year-old.
No.
That's in his story.
No. If he's 18 dating 21, this guy won the water chugging contest.
Oh, he did. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
chugging water means worthless, right?
Anyway, 2 years ago, I dated a medium, 21 female. One morning in bed, she looked down the hallway and saw a young boy aged around 5 to 7, shy but looking back at us in bed from my lounge room. She communicated with the boy to come closer to talk, but he ran off. She told me of this when I woke. After hearing that, I thought nothing of it. After dealing with the noises up until that point, it was basically my new normal. I spoke with a friend from church about it a year later in brief conversation on angels and demons, and he insisted I bless my house with the Lord's Prayer and demand the spirits leave in Jesus' name. I did, and they left for a few short months. After the months passed, noises came back. I prayed and continued to bless my house, and they would leave, but wouldn't leave for good. Now it's gotten to the point where I can see them. I see them standing at the foot of my bed, looking back at me, beside me when I sleep, staring at me from the hallway. It's not comforting, but I've always believed that it's the fear of it that gives it power. I do not fear these entities, for I walk with the Lord and his strength is mine. But it's not nice seeing them. I tell them to leave and they smile at me. Wilts the noises over the years, after long hot showers, and even now, when the mirror would fog up and I'd look at the faded reflection of myself, I would see my body, but not my own eyes. Someone else's or eyes? That doesn't right. Somebody else's
keep
eyes
going.
that belong to something not human. I thought maybe this was a mirage or a minimal hallucination over the years, but I can't fake it any longer. Just today, when I caught my own reflection looking back at me in the black mirror of my phone screen, I saw my reflection staring at me with a teeth-showing grin. It freaked me out to write this message and seek help. Thank you for reading this far. I ask for steps in the right direction. Any help is appreciated. Well, Mr. 20-year-old male. I mean, honestly, I wasn't up until the whole, like, I'm not seeing my eyes when I was looking at the mirror. I mean, there was nothing wrong with what was going on. You were knocks and bangs, whoop-de-doo-dah. But I mean, obviously you're attracting something, whether it's the same entity who wants to be seen in many different ways, or you're dealing with a collector, somebody who's collecting souls and having them all stand around your bed. I don't know. Honestly,
I almost had a heart attack.
What?
You just said collector. Like there's something there that's collecting souls. You are the Mr. Anti something there collecting energies. Nothing's evil. You just said I can't believe that. I'm blown away. I'm proud of you. That gets a golf clap.
Whatever.
Seriously. Usually you go into these stories, you're just like, there's nothing happening here.
Because there's
blah,
nothing
blah,
there.
blah, blah, blah. And now you're talking about the fact that there might be a collector there. I got blown back in my chair. I don't even think that was me. I think that was just the sonic wave of you. Oh, I'm seriously, I'm proud of you.
Talk to the hand, Dave.
Okay, I take my compliment away then. That was a compliment.
Anyways, it was a mockument.
It was not. It was a serious compliment.
Anyways, but I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, obviously, if you're looking in the mirror and not seeing your own eyes, is you have something inside you. You know, whether it's a partial possession, whether it's just something that's tagging along, you know, who knows how long it's been there? I have no idea. But I definitely think that, I mean, I honestly can't go so much that it's evil, because if it was, you shouldn't be able to say the Lord's Prayer. You shouldn't be able to cleanse your house. You shouldn't be able to do all of this religious stuff, because it will stop you from doing that. But yet it's still there. So either it's coming and going, and for some reason has a free ride in and out of you, or I honestly, I don't know. Or it's not. I can't say it's demonic, because I think demonic would be there almost all the time and would stop you from doing those prayers. The only thing demonic that comes and goes that I know of in this instance would be a succubus. They come and go. You know, they don't really possess you as much as feed and manipulate you and do all this other stuff. So
and he's not having any sexual fantasy nightmares,
right?
So right.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not saying that it was. I'm saying the only thing that I know that just kind of comes and goes,
right,
is a succubus incubus type demonic entity. So I mean, I think you're dealing with something that is not, it's not demonic, but obviously probably has nefarious plans or goals for you. But honestly, I would seek help. I almost would skip the whole, at this stage, I would skip the whole paranormal team coming in and go straight to a medium, something that will be able to tell you if there is indeed something in you, that would be able to, I don't want to necessarily say pull it out, but at least tell you if it's there, or what is going on. And I would do it soon. Even though you're not being attacked, you're not really being scared. I applaud you for the whole, I'm not scared of these entities. They're just kind of annoying. I like that, but something may be going on that you are not aware of, and you need to seek help for that as soon as possible. Done.
Go ahead, Lauren.
My initial thought is this person is somehow inadvertently attracting people that maybe need help or know him in some way. It's just they keep coming back, and it's never the same person. Like, he never says, "Oh, I saw that boy that was 5 to 7 years old." He only saw it once. There's always new people, and he never really explains what they look like, other than that they're just standing there grinning at him. So I'd like to hear a description of who he's seeing standing over his bed at night. That would be a little creepy, and that could maybe give us more insight as to what is actually going on. But my initial thought is that he has some kind of ability that is inadvertently attracting spirits to him, and maybe like one just kind of crashed into him, and that's why he's seeing the eye thing. That's a little strange. And yeah, I would agree with you, Mike. I would reach out to somebody about that, because if it starts there, you don't know where else it could go, and you don't want it to get too far down the line, and then something horribly terrifying that actually terrifies you is happening, and then it's a lot harder to fix the situation. But I also wouldn't say no to reaching out to a priest, just because this person obviously is a very religious person, so that gives them a lot of strength. So I would also maybe turn to somebody like that could help. But yeah.
Okay. So everybody knows my opinion on kids. and hauntings. So a young boy age 5 to 7, that's not a young boy age 5 to 7. That's something else showing itself as a young boy age 5 to 7 to the 21-year-old medium that he was dating. The only reason that a 5 to 7-year-old boy wouldn't come in the room if it felt that a strong medium was there and was willing to communicate so that he could come and be someplace where he felt comfortable instead of all alone, is because it's not a 5 to 7-year-old boy. That he took off and ran because he's laughing as he's running away. The fact that he blessed the house with the Lord's Prayer and demanded that the spirits leave in Jesus' name, and they did for a few short months. And then the months pass, the noises come back. I prayed and continued to bless my house, and they would leave, but they wouldn't leave for good. As we all know, if you sage a property because you're worried about there being a dark entity or a demonic entity in your house, cleansing a house with sage and other purifications cleanses the property and moves those negative energies out and allows the positive energies, spirits that it might have been a previous homeowner, your grandparents, your mom or dad, whatever the case might be, whoever they might be, to stay. They don't leave. I could sage a house, and the entities that are there just in a watching capacity, I'm here to help you capacity, an overshadowing capacity, they're not going to leave. They're not being forced out by the blessing and the saging. The only people that are leaving with that blessing and the saging are negative entities and entities that go against the white light of God. So the fact that this guy saged and blessed and prayed and entities left, the entities that are coming back are the negative entities that are making things in his life very miserable very soon. They're not happening yet. They're getting to that point. We talk about this all the time, right? Time is a man-made construct. So for a negative entity to spend 5 years of our time terrorizing your life or causing you to be uncomfortable might be 15 minutes for them. It might be a half hour. It's not the same 5 years. It doesn't work that way. So that happening, to me, this is a atom bomb waiting to happen. This guy needs to get as much help as he possibly can and get himself surrounded by as much positive white light and loving and God and everything that he can do to surround himself, or to get an exorcism, if that's what it turns out to be, that he needs to have an exorcism. I hope it's not. I can't totally 100% throw that out of the mix. But I don't like the child spirit and all this negative stuff happening. It's just it meshes together too well. It's just, I can't dismiss it. I think that something serious is happening here. And I think that this person's in trouble. And if they don't get help, it's going to get a whole lot worse. And then I agree with you, Lauren. Once it gets worse, it might be to the point of no return, or to the point of, I've seen exorcisms. I have not seen the exorcisms, that are probably well known in the Vatican that last, years. Because the entity that is dug in is so strong and powerful that it's just like, F you, we're not leaving, right? Eventually they're going to lose. God, good wins over evil. But nobody says they have to lose in a day, right? Or a year, or 5 years, or 10 years, right? And those priests are dedicated and praying over those individuals every single day of their lives. And for 5 years, man, that's a long time. So I think it's better to cusp this one as quickly as you can.
I think right now he's probably more in need of a deliverance as opposed to an exorcism.
I agree. I'm just saying down the road. I use exorcism very gingerly here. I don't use the term, you know me, Mike. I don't use the term exorcism hardly, ever. You know, but I use it with great caution here. But something needs to happen is what I'm saying. And I don't want it to go to an exorcism. I would hate to see it have to go to that point, because once you get to that point, God knows what's going to happen, you know. And people, regretfully, they die during an exorcism. You know, the tearing between the two negative and positive entities is more than the human body can handle. And people don't make it through that. So,
yeah, I think all three of us are in agreement that he needs some help like now.
Yeah.
So, all right. Do we continue with the stories or
Nope. Let's move on. We'll save them. We'll save those two for, I mean, they're good stories. We'll save them for next week. And, but let's move on to our night terrors and nightmares, because there's a lot to talk about.
All right. Sounds good. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, go to the bathroom, get a drink of water, settle in, because we're about to make it so you won't be able to sleep tonight. You're welcome. So, all right, we'll be back here in just a few short seconds.
Hey, this is Grant Wilson from Ghost Hunters, and if you ever have time that you never want to get back, spend it listening to Mike and Dave on the Odyssey Files.
Hey, everybody, it's Chad Lindbergh, and you are listening to the Odyssey Files with David and Michael. And let me tell you, it's almost as painful as a Skype glitch.
I am Chuck Zukowski from UFOnut.com and Alien Highway. I thought I was the only UFO nut until I met Mike and Dave with the Odyssey Files. They're a lot crazier than I am.
Hello, I'm Al Lagarde from Paper Route Productions, executive producer, Kindred Spirits, Paranormal State, a whole bunch of television shows. And I've worked with a lot of people on paranormal projects and met a lot of people in paranormal radio. And I want to say that Dave and Mike are two people who have a face for radio. In particular, internet radio.
Hey, it's Chris Fleming. More painful than a Tyrannosaurus Rex stepping on your testicle. Listen to Dave and Mike on Odyssey Files.
This is Elizabeth Saint. You know, in my journeys, I've confronted an over 1,000-year-old demon from the depths of Shepherdstown. But then, you know what happened? I came across Mike and Dave. And hot damn, nothing could have prepared me for the Odyssey Files. My second favorite radio show. I love you guys.
And we are back. And
don't forget to put the probe commercial in there from Michelle.
But I haven't updated it since we started using it, because
I know, but we talked about it, and you're like, hey, I get it. I'm just saying, friendly reminder. Don't forget to throw it, because that's a phenomenal spot. That's all.
I won't.
It'll fit right in the gist of what you put together. So,
yes, it will. All right. So, nightmares and night terrors. Obviously, not anything to mess with. They can ruin your day.
They'll definitely ruin your night.
Well, I mean, if you get like a really severe one, I mean, like, especially if it involves like the death of a loved one or whatever, like, you can go an entire day and be worried off your, anxious and stressed out and wondering what is going. I mean, so obviously, yes, they can ruin your night, but I mean, those things can last for quite a while.
Yeah.
So I was kind of surprised while doing research on this one, how simplistic the definition of a nightmare is. Just a dream full of anxiety or sorrow. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, something so broad and vague, can terrify you. And I mean, it's more than just sorrow and anxiety. I mean, like there's fear, terror. I mean, everything under the sun.
Sorrow, remorse. I mean,
guilt. Yeah.
Guilt,
I mean,
everything. You know, that's once again, that is our medical professional team in our society labeling something that is complex into something simplistic.
And of course,
simplistic term, not simplistic in what they are.
Right. So, obviously the causes of nightmares set by our medical people. I mean, because there's obviously like sleep paralysis, there's the medical side, and then there's the paranormal side. And how do you differentiate between the two? So here are some causes of nightmares. Sleep deprivation, which I think is also part of sleep paralysis.
No, sleep deprivation would be...
Well, I mean, I know what it is.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, what I think as far as it relates to nightmares, though, it would be like if you're afraid to go back to sleep. So, like, the first thing that popped into my head when I saw that, because I saw what you saw, the first thing that popped in my head was Nightmare on Elm Street, right? So the kids are like, I'm not going back to sleep because he only visits you in your sleep, right? So they take the no-dose or whatever the hell, you know, drink Red Bull. They weren't drinking Red Bull back in the 80s when Freddy was first made, but still, it was that type of mentality, right? Like, we're going to stay up and stay up and stay up. And if we stay up, then nothing's going to happen to us because we won't fall asleep. And if you can't come visit us if we're not asleep. But then you get sleep deprivation. Your body's just like, F you, I'm going to sleep after 30 hours or 40 hours of not sleeping, right? 20 hours. It just depends on the individual, I think. Most I ever made it was 3 days. I was up for 3 days straight. And I'm telling you what, life is a lot different when you're up for 72 hours straight than when you think. Like, there's a lot of weird sensations going on when you're up for and I wasn't up for 3 days straight because of nightmares. But it was a challenge that I did. And I'm like, okay, I can do this, right? It was a challenge to do 5 days straight of staying up. And I made it 3+. I made it for like 72, 75 hours. And then my body just collapsed. I mean, I fell asleep like almost standing up. I sat down and I was out for 12 hours. My body was like catching up.
You should have just challenged him to a water chugging contest.
I should have. 5 days sounded like a lot when I started. 3 days in was a hell of a lot longer than 5 days sounded. Trust me. I was like, holy crap, what is happening? Like, hallucinations, visitations. There's all kinds of weird shit starts happening when you're going through sleep deprivation. So
that's fair.
It's interesting, though.
I mean, obviously, severe stress or anxiety over something happening in your life that particularly like mourning, of a loved one. Obviously reading and watching scary stuff. I mean, they say it all the time, don't watch paranormal television right before you go to bed.
Right.
Which I do, and nothing ever happens, but that's me. That's because most of it gets me angry, not scared. So, obviously medications, like antidepressants, it's amazing that antidepressants cause you to like be scared and fearful and have anxiety that causes nightmares, which is very not happy. So go them. And then obviously substance abuse, alcohol, stuff like that. But obviously they're not going to put in there like paranormal entities. So, I mean, I guess beyond just that list, what do both of you think would be different causes for why people have nightmares?
I think there are a lot of factors that go into it. I think it depends on the individual. One, maybe if they're open to if they have any kind of sensitivity towards the paranormal or anything like that, if they do have that open-mindedness, that might be a way that a spirit can, you know, be like, oh, okay, I'm going to visit this person if they choose to like visit or whatever it is. So I think it depends on the person. It depends on where they are in their life, what the situation and the circumstances around them are, because obviously we know if there's certain things going on in your life, it does make you a little more predisposed to having an experience or encountering something, just because some spirits are seeking out weakness in people. Unfortunately, that's just how some spirits are, the darker ones. So I think that's also a factor that you have to take into consideration. But if a spirit wants to talk to you in your dreams or visit you, I think if they're really determined, they're going to find a way. Like, you know, unfortunately, I don't know of much that you can do to stop somebody coming into your dream. But I mean, not all the time it's going to be scary. Because like if it's a loved one that's passed on, that's coming back to say like, I'm okay, that's not really going to be scary, you know? That's going to be more like maybe the sorrowful side of a nightmare as they define it. But yeah, nightmare and night terrors just encompass a whole bundle of everything. And there's a lot. It's a broad term. They're both broad terms.
I would agree. I think that true nightmares, like, to me, all right, so obviously there's a differentiation between a bad dream and a nightmare, right? I mean, that's clinically it's even the medical side of the profession diagnoses or, you know, separates those two things. Like you just had bad dreams, you know, or you had a nightmare, which is a totally different kind of thing. So nightmares, the scary thing about nightmares is that they cause your body to physically react. You know, so God forbid, right? Like you have some sort of heart condition or some sort of stress-related induced type of medical condition, and you're having nightmares on a consistent basis, or even once a month, right? It takes you to a scary place. And the big thing that I saw between nightmares and like night terrors, which we're kind of talking simultaneously about, is that nightmares are so vivid that 97% of the people that have nightmares can remember part of them, if not all of them, the next day. Whereas night terrors is less than 10%. Like nobody remembers what the night terror was, right? So for me, when you look at so I'm just throwing that out there, not necessarily that's exactly what we were talking about, but I'm just throwing that out there as our conversation moves forward. So night terrors happen happen pre-REM sleep. And so your body is reacting physically to what you're experiencing, but your mind is not, right? Your mind is not reacting to that. But in a nightmare, your mind is totally engaged in what the hell is happening. And it's uncontrollable, as a night terror is, I guess, as well. And you get to this point where, you know, I don't know. I think that when you get into like a nightmare type of condition, it's called parasomnia. And you can like totally, it could totally take over your existence and totally take over your life. Now, thankfully, only 8%, I think maybe I saw 6 to 8, it was either 6 to 8 or 8 to 10% of the population sees like nightmares on a regular basis. God help those people, right? Because I don't know, maybe everybody's nightmares are different, and I'm sure they are, but my nightmares are bad enough when I have them occasionally. I haven't had them for a long time. I don't want any more of them. If I live without them until the day I die, I am completely satisfied with the fact that I've had my fair share of nightmares. But, you know, that said, they affect you in such a negative way that I think they screw up your life. I don't think that, I think it's difficult. If you're having a lot of bad nightmares, I think it's very difficult to move forward. You know, I think you have disturbed sleep. I think that's when you get into sleep deprivation, because you don't want to fall asleep because you're scared that it's going to come back. I think it's scary, the fact that you can remember them the next day. I can remember my nightmares the next day. And I hate the fact that when I go to bed the next night, sometimes my mind is reliving that nightmare. And I'm like, F you, I don't want to be here. Right? I don't want to go back to where I was last night. What the hell are we doing here? I want to go to someplace nice. Let's go trout fishing in Colorado. You know, let's go, picking wild mushrooms up in the Canadian wilderness. Let's go someplace where it's beautiful and places I love outdoors in the country, God's country, right? I mean, that's the closest I feel to God is when I'm outdoors. If I'm sitting in my bow stand, I'm closer to God there than I am in a church any day of the week. Just because I feel like that's what God wants us to be. Like if we're tuned into him, that's where we are tuned in. We all find our own individual places to be tuned in. God's not in that church building. People are in that church building that are all celebrating God. There's a difference. I'm segueing. We're sidetracking. Sorry. But you know, I feel better in my bow stand than I ever felt sitting at Mass. I felt closer to God in my bow stand than I ever have in Mass. But.
Yep. Because the best thing that you can do to feel close to God is being prepared to kill one of its animals.
Well, if God didn't want us to harvest animals, he wouldn't have put them on the earth and told us to eat meat. We have to sustain life. The fact that I kill my own meat, the fact that you go to the store and buy meat, and the fact that I harvest my own meat, there's no difference there. The only difference is that you choose not to, right? And I choose to. That's all. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, you choose to pay $6 a pound for hamburger, and I choose to sit out in the woods quietly and wait for an opportunity.
So, I mean, you brought up, obviously the fact of, you know, you haven't had a nightmare in a while, and, you know, you could go the rest of your life without having one. And I completely agree with you on that.
Yeah.
And I talked to you about this briefly before when we were talking about the nightmare show. I don't think I've ever had a nightmare in my entire life.
I know.
Lucky
that's what you told me. Well, that's what you told me. I don't know that you haven't, but that's what you told me.
Well, right. I'm thinking back and trying to think of any time where I like woke up like completely terrified or whatever, and I cannot. Like, I got a very good memory. I can think way, way back. I cannot remember a time when I ever woke up scared or terrified, or, I mean, I've woken up confused. I've been like, wow, that was weird. But
that's not a nightmare.
No, it's not a nightmare. And yeah, so I don't think I've ever had one in my entire life, which I'm very grateful for. Don't want one. Same as, you know, going through my paranormal career, never getting scratched. I'm okay with that. Like, if it happens, all right, I'll deal with it.
I was going to say, at one point you weren't. At one point you were begging to be scratched.
No, I was not begging to be scratched at all. But it was one of those. It was one of those.
Come on now, let's be serious.
If it happens, let's just try to get it done, and so that and out of the way.
Right. And that was a notorious place where an entity liked to scratch people at that particular location in that particular spot.
But it still never happened.
Well, it didn't happen. All right, it didn't happen. Right, I'm just saying. Lauren, let's backtrack a second. Nightmares. You're young.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
yes.
I'm just saying, right? You're young. How old are you?
24.
Okay. So you're 24 years old. Nightmare experience. Have you had nightmares? Like what you truly would consider a nightmare, not a bad dream?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've noticed a trend I have my nightmares the night or two before a large event happens in my life that I have no idea it's coming. Specifically around like traumatic experiences. The night before, I remember specifically 2 separate times where something horrible happened the next day. That morning, I woke up just in a cold sweat, horrible nightmare, just like to the point where you don't want to go back to sleep the next night because it scared the crap out of you, you know? Right. So other than that, I have not had a nightmare in a while. I had a visitation dream, and I told you about that, Mike, because that was on our last investigation at South Pittsburgh. But I've noticed I have very vivid dreams all the way around. I typically wake up and remember at least 1, if not 2 of my dreams during the night. But yeah, the nightmares and the scarier, more intense ones tend to happen around large events in my life that I can't predict. So I don't know what that means, but
it's like kind of in a foreshadowing kind of way then, from what it sounds like.
Premonition.
Yeah, like a premonitional foreshadowing, whatever, right, type of way.
Yeah, and they're usually related. I really do believe that there is a lot of symbolism in a lot of the dreams that I do have. And I'm working on trying to figure out what that means, because that's different for everybody, because everybody has different dreams, you know? But yeah, I know a lot of the colors and the textures in my dreams have significant meaning to what is happening in my life currently.
Yeah.
So I find it very interesting. I love dreams, symbolism, everything like that. But the nightmares, like you said, they're usually more intense. You remember a lot of the details more because they're more ingrained in your brain. But yeah, I haven't had a bad one in a while. Thank goodness. But
okay, so I'm curious, I'm going to assume that I know the answer to this, but do you dream in color?
Oh yeah. Okay. Vivid colors.
Mike, do you dream in color?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I dream in full color, full sound.
Right. I do too.
I might as well just be there.
Right. Like I might be at the IMAX theater is like what my dreams are, whether they're good, bad, indifferent, whether they're just common dreams. They're just dreams that I'm having that are neither good nor bad. They're just kind of experiences that I'm going through. I'm the same way. And then when I fall asleep, like if I wake up for some reason in the middle of one of those dreams, let's say I have to go to the bathroom, get a drink of water, pee, whatever. And then I go back to bed and I lay back down. If I want to, I can kind of say to myself, let's go back to where we were in my mind, and I'll go right back into where I was, you know, right back into that dream. So I had seen something. So I just want to throw this out there because I think this is important. I had seen something years ago, like it's probably a decade ago, that only 10% of the population dreams in color. Right.
Really?
Which I thought, yeah. And I thought the same thing. It's exactly what I said. Your face expressed exactly what I thought when I read that. I'm like, really? I'm like 10% of the population, right? So as you're talking, I just looked it up. And it is updated to 25 to 29%. Now,
that's really interesting.
Psychology Today says that 25 to 29% of the people in the world, right, 7 billion plus, dream in color. So 1/4 of us dream in color. It's even a lesser percentage, I would imagine, that can go right back into their dreams.
Yeah, I'm jealous of that. I cannot do that.
And my friend Terry, who I know likes to listen, she can go right back into her dreams. And I can go right back into my dreams.
I want to just put out here, because usually I don't need to go back into my dreams, but I have on one occasion, I can't remember how long ago this was, literally had a dream that ended with "to be continued," and then I woke up.
Like it actually said "to be continued."
It's literally
like
said "to be continued." Yeah, really? "To be continued," and then I woke up.
Wow,
that's great.
And then I think
I have not had that. I have not had that happen. So.
And then I think when I did go back to sleep, I did go back into that dream. So I was right. So
yeah,
but usually I don't wake up until I'm ready to, because if I ever get somewhat conscious, to know that I'm dreaming, I'll get to a certain point where I'm like, yeah, I'm done, and then I'll wake myself up, and I really don't ever feel the need to go back into it. And if there is a dream where I do, it never comes back, little bastards. But I guess that's on me. Can't blame anybody else for that one. But there is something, not so much to change the topic or whatever, but there's been a couple times where it's been stated that we all have different dreams or different nightmares or whatever. That doesn't seem to be the case. Because there's from two different sites. I only wrote down the information off one of them. People have a lot of the exact same nightmares. It may be different circumstances, but I've heard this for years. Never really thought much of it. And
I know I talked to you about it when we were talking about doing the show, and I'm like, you know what the scary part is that across the world, people are having these really similar visions of nightmares. And how in the hell is that happening? Right? Like, how is somebody in central China and somebody in India and somebody in Canada and somebody in Russia having all the same nightmares that they can, if you put them all in the same format, they're very similar. What the hell's going on?
I don't know. But, the one site that it was a sleep site or whatever, took a poll of like 2,000 people who, said they had nightmares and asked what they were. I mean, 64.7% had the nightmare of falling. Like, that is the number one nightmare, period, that people have. And I don't particularly understand it. Like, why that is considered a nightmare.
I don't think that's a nightmare.
Right. But that's what the classification was. I mean,
right,
it's like being chased.
Right.
That was 63.3%. Death was 54.9%. Like a loved one passing was 35.8%. Being paralyzed was 26.2%. Here's the one that I absolutely loved. It was down towards the bottom, but people have had nightmares of malfunctioning technology. Like, people have nightmares of like their iPhone malfunctioning on them.
Oh my God, it's horrible.
And that's considered bad.
That is not a nightmare, people.
No,
that is not a nightmare society. Good God. A nightmare is when you wake up and the bed is wet.
Well, maybe it had
my iPhone 13 Pro not shooting in 4K HD is not a nightmare.
Depends on what you're trying to film.
It's still not a nightmare. I don't care.
I agree. But I mean, honestly though, if I had gone to, in their defense, if I had gone to like a bar and got a really beautiful woman's number and then had a dream or a nightmare that my phone malfunctioned and deleted it, I would wake up in cold sweats and I would be scared and terrified.
That's just a bad dream. That's not a nightmare.
It could turn into a nightmare, Dave.
It could if she was like a succubus.
Well,
right. That would be your nightmare, right?
What if she was crazy? What if she was crazy, Dave? What if she's like, call me tomorrow or I'm going to kill you?
Okay. It's still not a nightmare. It's a bad dream, but still, okay. As long as you didn't give her your number, you're safe. I mean, how's she going to find you? Just don't go to the same bar again, right?
We'll see. But anyway,
we'll see. We'll see. What did it happen last night or something?
Yeah. But surprisingly, on the two sites that I did, and these were two separate polls, like almost all of the answers were the exact same. And
yeah,
it's crazy. I mean, but you're gonna love this, Dave. You're gonna love this.
Yes,
I'm gonna tie in this concept that we haven't talked about in a long time.
Okay.
Global consciousness.
Absolutely. Love global consciousness. So that certainly could be why people all over the world are experiencing very similar nightmares. Could also explain why we talked a little bit about last week about why all these ancient civilizations drew astronauts and spacemen on their.
That's because the aliens were visiting us, Dave.
Well, I'm just saying, right? They drew them on their wall paintings, right? Like they drew a bear, and they drew a couple guys with spears, like trying to fight the bear, because that was what the hell was going on, right?
All in shape.
And then all of a sudden, they drew like a astronaut with a helmet and a spacesuit. Like, okay, where the hell did that come from, right? What the hell is that? So maybe, right? Maybe global consciousness has been around since the dawn of time, right? I don't know. But I do love global consciousness. I do honestly think that if 1 million people get on the same wavelength, 10 million people, that they can make a difference. They can make a change. I do believe that in my heart. Have I seen it happen? I'm not sure. Do I believe it's possible? I do. I honestly do. I think that if you could get enough people truly, now I'm not just saying people just to show up, right? And I'll use this as an example. Area 51. Let's storm Area 51 and teach those bastards a lesson about keeping secrets from us, right? I've said this many times. I'll say it many times more. The first 1,000 people that got mowed down, every other person that was there would have been like, I am out of here. I hope they don't catch my face on one of these surveillance drones, and I hope they don't see my license plates. And they'd have been gone, right? That is not global consciousness. That is stupidity.
That's global stupidity.
That's global stupidity.
I would really hope, though, that it would not take 1,000 people being mowed down to make people back off.
I hope not too, right? Like I said, it probably would have been 10, maybe 100. If you see 100 people getting sawed in half, and you're just like some woohoo, let's go have fun at Area 51. Let's teach a government a lesson. And 100 people get mowed in half right in front of you. I'm pretty sure you're going to get in your VW van and get your ass the hell out of there. But I do believe that if you seriously got a large quantity of people together, let's say 1 million strong, and every single person had the same thing, clear mind, focused on what the goal was, that they could make a difference. They could make something change in what is happening around us. And I believe that. In my heart, I believe that. I think the issue is finding 1 million people who can drop all their baggage and show up with love in their heart and trying to make a positive change. And I don't think I just don't think that that's going to happen. There's plenty of people on the planet Earth to do it. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Well, right.
And it's sad. So,
well, right. But we're not talking about global consciousness. We're talking
well, you did.
I just brought it up.
Well, you brought it up, so you put me on the side path.
I didn't. No, well, that wasn't the intention to put you on a side path. I was just saying that maybe the reason that so many people are having the same kind of nightmares is because we are all connected in some way. You know, with the theory of global consciousness. But I did find.
So let me ask you a question then. If you're living in a village in India, outskirts of Russia, whatever, right? And you have a nightmare, and something is in your nightmare that is you've never seen before, right? You've never, like, it's never been a part of your existence ever. You've never heard of it. You've never seen it. You've never heard anybody talk about it ever. What does that mean to you? What does that nightmare mean to you? Well, it has nothing to do with your life. It just shows up.
Well, right, but
because that's going on the basis of global consciousness. I'm saying on the same wavelength here. So global consciousness, right? We touch an individual out in wherever, and that person has this nightmare that is this experience that 64% of the people are having. What does that mean to that person? Why is that person going to have that nightmare when they have no familiarity with it whatsoever?
I don't know, but as somebody who's never had a nightmare, I can't really answer that question. I have had dreams where I had absolutely no recollection of anything. Like, I didn't know the people that were in it. I didn't know the buildings that I was in. Nothing made sense to me. But then 5 years later, or whatever, all of a sudden it hits me that I had, these are the people that was in that dream. This is the building that I was in when I had that dream. I've always taken...
That's more precognition, though.
Well, right. But I'm just saying, I have never been in the situation where, because usually if I don't know anything that is going on with people, I throw it away. I don't think about it anymore. I don't worry about it. It just so happens that somehow down the road, you hit the deja vu feeling.
Yeah.
And it reminds me that I dreamed this way, way, way back, a long time ago. But I don't know if I've ever connected to anybody else's reality. And I don't know if I would ever be able to know if I did or not, unless that person or these people came into my life and explained it to me, or described it or something. And in the reverse side, I don't think if anybody over in India were to dream something that they had no recollection or they had no knowledge of over here, whether my life or Lauren's or yours, I can't imagine that they wouldn't toss that aside too, as being some weird dream. But yeah, so I mean, that's the best way I can answer that question. I don't know. To me, it would just be something weird, something my imagination came up with, and I would toss it aside and not think of it again until somehow it got brought up in my head again, as some sort of feeling that this was that dream, whether it's from something another person is saying or doing, or whether I experienced it myself.
So it'd be that correlation factor where you'd be like, wow, I had this. Okay. These two pieces of the puzzle seem to fit together.
Right.
Right.
Lauren, what do you think of that? I mean, what would your answer be to Dave's question?
I do believe that global consciousness is a thing. So that makes sense to me, that there is some kind of higher consciousness that is allowing us to like have each other's dreams almost, or like little bits can kind of be like put in somebody else's dream and taking out of one other person's dream. I do get what you're saying, Mike, though, that you could easily just toss it aside as it's just something that your imagination made up. I could easily see that as well. But I do think it's a really interesting concept that a lot of people are having the same dreams. And then if you, on top of that, take something from somebody else's dream or at some point in the future that is now coming to you right now and you vividly remember it and you just can't shake it, I think it's there for a reason. I think a lot of our dreams do have symbolism in them, whether we understand it or not. It's there for a reason, and our mind is telling us, maybe just through somebody else telling us, it's something that you need to pay attention to. But yeah, I mean, everybody can interpret dreams in different ways. There's a million books out there that claim to be like, this is how you interpret your dreams. There's a million people are like, there's only one way to interpret your dreams. There's a bunch of different ways. And like we've been talking about, there's a bunch of different things you have to take into consideration if you want to deep dive into your dreams and find out the meaning behind them. But yeah, I do like the idea of global consciousness. I think that's I would say that's a valid explanation for a lot of similarities that people have in different civilizations, even different time periods.
Okay, so let me ask you guys this then. As far as nightmares, so let's just stick with nightmares. Why? Okay, so nightmares are kind of a paralyzing, and I'm not talking about bad dreams. I'm talking strictly about nightmares, right? Like I always used to have these. Okay, so I'll segue here for a quick second. I always had these anxiety dreams, and I shouldn't say always had them. I had them occasionally where like I was in high school and I was running behind schedule and I was in the hallway and everybody else was in class and I was like, damn it, I'm going to be late. And I went up to my locker and I couldn't remember my locker number, right? Like that's an anxiety dream. I know that's an anxiety dream. Whatever was happening in my life, whether I knew it or not, there was some anxiety that was happening in my life. That dream is an anxiety dream. But let's just stick strictly to a nightmare, horrifying, scar your mind, cause the bed to be soaking wet from either sweat or urine, right? I'm just saying, hey, nightmares are brutal things, man. So let's just stick there. What do you think the chances are that there's something more powerful at play that wants to weed out certain individuals that might have potential, kind of like as we go reflect back to the Hatman series and say, and in my opinion, that the Hatman shows up for people that have potential, because that's what I believe. The Hatman shows up for people that have potential to cause him harm down the road. So he causes fear initially at a young age so that you abandon that path and choose a different path. Okay. So let's stick on kind of that concept. So what do you think about the possibility that nightmares, if we're talking about global consciousness, and we're sticking with that same conceptual theme, causes individuals to have these similar nightmares across the world? And why? And is there a possibility that it truly is this all-powerful negative being? And if you want to simplify it, right, you've got God and you've got Satan. So God obviously isn't sending you nightmares. Satan might be, right? And I'm not throwing this into religious context. I'm just saying, as an idea, moving with your answers moving forward, right? Something powerful has to have the ability to cause global conscious nightmares. It doesn't just happen for the hell of it, right? I mean, shit just doesn't happen for the hell of it in our lives. And it certainly doesn't happen with global conscious nightmares. If that's what we're saying, and that is what we're saying, because that's what we all agree to, right? So that's kind of what we're saying, is that there's global consciousness happening here and that there's nightmares. So what the hell is behind the global conscious nightmares?
That's a really good question that I've actually pondered when I do have nightmares, because when you have one, you're like, why the hell is this happening? And in my mind, I go to, okay, what path am I going down that I shouldn't be going down? Because obviously I'm doing something in my life that is causing me to be terrified in some way. But that's a really interesting way of kind of twisting it and thinking about it as, is something discouraging you from moving forward down that path, rather than is something kind of helping you to move down the right path. I could see that as a very logical jump in my mind, just because, I mean, we've talked about spirits can come visit you in your dreams. That's just,
sure,
I believe, something that happens. I think we're all in agreement that is something that happens.
Absolutely.
So it's not that big of a jump to say there is a larger scale negative presence going on that is entering people's dreams and scaring them away from maybe something that could be potentially dangerous to the entity itself later. Yeah, that makes sense in my mind. I mean, if an entity has power to do that and they can see individuals that could be potentially dangerous to them in the future, why wouldn't they?
Right. I would.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
would you.
And if you
So
have
would
bad
Mike.
intentions, like they
Right.
would have no ethical dilemma about entering somebody's dream.
Right.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense to me.
If we were evil and I saw you as a threat, I would do everything I could, aside from touching you, to discourage you off of your path of potentially being an adversary to me down the road.
Yeah. And I mean, as we've seen, like, people are scarred from their nightmares. Like, you don't usually forget your nightmares if they're really that intense.
Nope.
So, I mean, if that is the case, then whatever it is, it's doing a very good job of it, because it's obviously scarring people around the globe. So that's great. But yeah, that's positive to think about. Have fun sleeping tonight, everybody.
Well, isn't that the true battle of good versus evil?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, the yin and the yang of the world we live in. For every positive, there's a negative. I mean,
I did warn people at the beginning of the show that they were going to have trouble sleeping tonight. So, hey, your fault, all your faults. So
I'll accept that responsibility because it's an important topic, right? I mean, last week I got 2 positive feedbacks from people that said I really appreciated listening to your show. Because it really helped me.
So here's the thing: is if you continually be like, should I or shouldn't I, when you have these nightmares, you're going to drive yourself insane. You have to. I know that, and this is coming from a person who's never had one, so take it with a grain of salt. You can't let a nightmare influence your decision. It by definition, a nightmare is not real. So it'd be like reading Harry Potter and thinking that, you're going to be a wizard. I mean, it's not real. And it may seem real. I mean, that's the whole point of them. That's why they freak us the hell out, is because they seem so real. And so we can't start doing that. I think it's a very good point. And is it possible? Because I'm with you, Dave. I fully believe that. I think I was the one that brought up that point when we were doing the Hat Man show. Is it a way of, if this is your path and here's the nightmare, is it now going to branch you off to do something else?
Right. You hit that fork in the road.
Exactly.
Right? You got the scary aspect, and then you got the road of, I'm not sure what's over here, but it doesn't look as scary as this one over here. Right.
So, but I can't imagine with how hard-headed I am, that I would let a nightmare move me in any sort of way. I think that it would probably freak me out a little bit. Like, I would have to think about it maybe, but then ultimately I'd settle down and be like, whatever, and move on with life, and continue with doing what I was doing. So, I guess that is the only way that I can answer that question, because, as I said, I've never had one. So I cannot really answer that on how. I can only kind of comprehend how I might react and how that might. I just don't think that anybody should use a nightmare as a decision-making tool, or a dream for that matter. I mean, I'm not picking on just nightmares, a dream either. Unless you literally feel the hands of God coming down and be like, you need to do this. Okay, that's fine. I'm all right with that then. But if it's just imagery and stuff like that, whether good or bad, you can use it. At least I wouldn't. But then again, I've never been in that situation. So
I totally understand what you're saying, not being in a situation as a person who's had some brutal nightmares. And for the population that has nightmares, sometimes they're really hard to throw away. You know, they're really hard to throw away. They're not, it's just not that easy to just dismiss them, you know. And I'm not, and again, I'm not talking about bad dreams. I'm not talking about forgetting your locker code. I'm not talking about stress dreams. I'm talking about true nightmares, things that make you wake up in a cold sweat, right? To me, that's the definition. If you don't wake up, if you don't spring up in bed in a cold ass sweat, ready to fight for your life, the moment you sit up in bed, that's not a nightmare. That's just a bad dream.
I will say this. My friend Carla, when she was still in college, stayed over at my place because she was visiting me for a weekend. And I had a couch in my room because I don't throw away anything. So I just place it anywhere I can. But she said that night, I suddenly, for whatever reason, sat up in bed, was like, Black Knight? What the F? And then laid back down and went to sleep.
It's just a dream.
So
That's not the same as sitting up in bed, Mike.
No, that's totally not a nightmare. That's not a nightmare.
You don't know what the Black Knight was doing?
Yeah, I
don't
do.
either. But
the fact that you said it wasn't a nightmare is that you've never had a nightmare. You've never had a nightmare. So I mean, they're scary. You know, I feel bad for the 8% or so population of the people that have, you know, habitual nightmares. I mean, it's got to be debilitating as F. Obviously, I don't want to say the word, but that's how I feel, right? So, like, it's got to be extremely difficult to go to sleep. You know, I mean, it's got to be extremely difficult to go to sleep. It's got to be like you really have to dread, like, having to go back into that situation, you know. And there is, according to the data I looked up, 6 to 8% of the population has, and that's a lot. To me, that's a lot, right? I mean, you're talking 8% of 7 million people. That's a lot of goddamn people that are having nightmares on a regular basis that you can't function. You know, that's a lot of people. I would, like, if you asked me initially when we started this show what I thought the population of, like, people having nightmares that, like, destroyed their lives and they can't move forward because of it, I would have told you under 1%. That's just would have been my initial reaction to it. I would have said it's not even 1%, maybe 0.5%, but 6 to 8%. It kind of leads me to believe that either one of two avenues is happening here. Either there's a lot of mental illness going on that is undiagnosed and unrecognizable, maybe, or untreated for sure. And our society does not treat mental illness worth a shit anyway. Or there's something bigger and more powerful on this fork of the road that is causing this percentage of the population to just basically be incapacitated, you know, because of what they experience every time they lay down and go to sleep. Something's happening. That's just too big of a population. 6%, 8% is too big of a population to just discard. In my opinion, less than 1%, I would say it's just people that have mental illness if something's happening. 6 to 8%, something's happening. I don't think that's just mental illness. I think there's something else going on.
Well, with the no time that we have left,
yeah, the 30 seconds we have left.
I do want to for people who were here at the beginning of this hour and we talked about the causes of it, if you're having a medical, whether it's sleep deprivation, whether it's stress, whether it's watching a scary movie, medication, substance abuse, whatever, if you're bringing this on yourself and it's not paranormally based, there are treatments. Right. Things that you can do, which I think is important for us to throw out there as well before the show.
I agree.
So, the number one thing, obviously, especially if you're having like the stress and the anxiety, loss of a loved one, whatever, talk to somebody, get it off it doesn't have to be a therapist. It can be a friend. It could be another family member, get it off your mind, talk about it. Write us an email. We're here for you as well. There are people out there that care, and you don't have to be the best of friends in order for you to be able to reach out and get some good advice. Sometimes just writing a letter is enough. I've done it. It's phenomenal.
It's unleashing your burdens.
Right. So follow a regular fitness routine, which, obviously that gets your energy out. It gets you more relaxed. It gets you feeling better about yourself.
Right.
So try that. Here's the one that I kind of laughed just by the way that they did. Avoid using tranquilizers and alcohol to aid your sleeping. And
some people get pushed to a point of doing that, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, they do. It was just surprising. I mean, obviously the whole alcohol, type of thing. We have had clients who, have said, I have to drink in order to
drink myself to sleep.
Yeah, I have to drink myself to sleep.
Right. I've had clients that do the exact same thing. Right.
I have a friend who was like, when I get off work, I'm going to take a crap load of tranquilizers and go to bed. I'm like, what? Okay. And obviously, people have said this for years and years and years, avoid caffeine and other stimulants, before you go to bed.
Right.
Not in general, just, before you go to bed.
Yeah. Don't have a cup of espresso at 10 p.m. is a good thought pattern. Right. Moving forward, if you're having a hard time sleeping.
Think of it as if you can't swim 30 minutes after you eat.
Right.
Don't drink caffeine an hour before you go to bed.
Right.
Or 2 hours. I don't know how long you would really
like an hour. Yeah.
Right. So here's another point I was going to make, and just thinking it was about the falling dream and how seems to be the number one dream, period. Because I wanted to find out why, what is it about this falling dream that everybody is having? Or I should say everybody, but a huge portion of the people who have nightmares have it. And apparently when you're born, you have two primal fears that is written into your DNA: the fear of loud noises and the fear of falling. I did not know that.
And I'll let you know, I've never had either one of those associated with what I would associate with a nightmare.
Yeah, neither have I. Well,
I've had a falling one a few times, like the point where you're you wake up thrashing because you think you're falling,
off of a huge, the Empire State Building kind of fall,
out of a plane. That's what I see. Yeah, it's like it's like you're skydiving without a parachute. I'm terrified of skydiving, so I'm never going skydiving. But yeah, you wake up and you're thrashing it. But yeah, I also just have a fear of loud noises, so maybe I haven't really grown out of either of those infant fears.
I don't know. I've never had a fear of loud. Yeah, I've never had a fear of loud noises either.
I get real shaky when there's a loud noise around me. I don't like it.
So, you're a fan of 4th of July then?
I could do it when I know it's coming. Like fireworks, because they're also muffled, and usually they're muffled, but when it's really loud, if somebody screams within 10 feet of me, my knees get shaky and I need to leave the room because it's too overwhelming for me. I think it's also just because it's a lot of energy, and I don't like angry energy, and it's.
So next time we investigate together, I'm going to scream, your blood's going to curdle, Your knees are going to fail, and you're going to run out of the room.
I will do exactly that, and I'll sit in a corner and cry somewhere.
I would not do that to you. I will not do that to you. It's just a joke.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It would be quite entertaining if it was a really boring investigation, then maybe.
I still would not do it to you. Well, maybe on a maybe if we're at Zombie Burger. You know, and you're just like waiting to order, and I just blow out like a blood curdling scream, and you drop to your knees, and like, ah! And you run.
That would be bad.
I'd be like, yeah, she's not ordering right now.
No,
so she'll be back later.
He can have my burger.
Exactly. Yeah.
You wouldn't be ordering either, because you'd probably be kicked out.
Me?
Yeah, for making for screaming like that.
Nah, they love me at Zombie Burger.
Yeah, you're their customer of the month.
No, well, if it was in Minnesota, maybe.
Well, either way. All right. Well, I hope we didn't even get into night terrors. So,
well, we touched on them. You know.
Well, yeah, we mentioned.
Yeah, a little bit.
But we hope, like our sleep paralysis show last week, that maybe it kind of gave you, the listener some sort of, way to tell whether, what is going on, and ways to prevent it. I mean, it's kind of the whole point of it, and ways of just, thinking of nightmares in a different way. But yeah, so that does it for us this week. Want to thank everybody for listening. We'll be back next week with another brand new episode. Until then, stay healthy, stay safe. We want to see you back here. Everybody, have yourselves a good night.